So I'm going to go through arrays and loops, which is what we went through on Monday. So first, an array is basically a list of items. You can think of it like a container that holds an ordered collection of items. The values are stored in a specific order. Each item in the array has a numbered position called its index. Arrays in JavaScript are zero index, meaning the first item is 0 and the second is 1, and so on. And then we also declare arrays in these straight brackets. So first I'm just going to show you a basic array. We need to use that let keyword to initialize a variable. We're going to call this fruits, so we're going to have a list of fruits. So we do the brackets. These are going to be strings, so we have to have them in quotes. So we'll do apple followed by a comma, and then we'll do banana, and then we'll do grape. Alright. So if we console log this fruits variable, it's going to print out our array. So we'll run our file and we see that we have the brackets, and then we have apple, banana, and grape. So as far as the indexes go, apple will be 0, banana will be 1, and grape will be 2. So when we want to access, if we wanted to just print out one item from that array, a way to do that would be console, we'll just console.log. And so in order to access just one index of an array, we call that variable fruits, and we use these brackets, and say we want to print out banana. So banana is its index is 1. So if we put a 1 right here, and we go down here and run our file, we see it printed out banana. So this is how this bracket with the index, the number of the index, so we have the variable of the array, so the name of the array, followed by the brackets, and then inside the brackets is what we'll put what we want to print. So we can do the same for grape. And so now it printed out grape. And then we can do 0. And now it printed out apple. Okay, so let's go back here. So the next thing we discussed is there's different ways that you can manipulate the arrays in JavaScript. So the first method that we discussed was push. So the push method adds an element to the end of the array. And the syntax for it is we call that variable of the array, followed by dot push, and then in the parentheses we'll pass that item that we want to add to our array. So okay, so we'll call the variable of our array, so fruits dot push, and then in parentheses we'll add a new fruit. So we'll just add pear, and then we're going to console log the updated array. So let's go here. Alright, and so we have our first original array, which is the 3 items, and then we have the updated after we push pear. So we see pear is at the end of our array, it added to the end of it, not before apple or in between. Alright, and so the next thing is loops. So loop Loops are a controlled structure that allows a block of code to be executed repeatedly based on the condition. So it iterates each time the loop runs. It's called an iteration. We also have a condition, so the loops rely on a condition and determines how long the loop should run. So once the condition reaches false, it'll stop the loop. Let's see. Okay, so the different loops that he discussed were the while loop and the do while loop and the for loop were the ones that he discussed. So a while loop repeatedly executes a block of code as long as a specific condition evaluates to true. The condition is checked before the iteration. So let's go to our while, and what we'll do is we'll set a count to equal to 0, okay? And then we'll start with while, and then while count is less than, we'll go up to 5. We will console log the count, and then after we log the current count, we will add to the count. So this plus plus is going to be the same as the counter pattern that you learned previously. So it's the same thing as count plus 1. It's just a shorthand way of doing that. So we'll run our file, and we see, so what it does is it checks the count, is it less than 5? So it starts at 0, so the condition is going to be true. So we log the current count, which is 0, and then we add 1 to it. So now the count is 1. So it checks to see if it's less than 5. It is. So then it logs the current, which is 1, and then adds 1. So now it's 2. So it checks, is count less than 5? So basically, is 2 less than 5? True. So let's print the current count, and then we're going to add to it. So now count is 3. So is 3 less than 5? Yes. So let's log 3 and add to 3. So we log 3 and then we add. So now count is 4. Is 4 less than 5? It is. So let's log 4 and add to the 4. Add to the count. So now the count is 5. So is 5 less than 5? It's not. So it's going to stop the while loop and it's not going to run anymore. So if we change this to 5, let's see what happens. Nothing happens because the condition is it's already false. So it's already 5. So the next thing is the do while loop. So what the do while loop is good for is it runs the block of code first and then it checks to see if the condition is true. So the do while loop is similar to the while, but it guarantees that the code block will execute at least once before the condition is checked. So in this example, even though the condition is less than 0 is false after the first execution, the statements still run and then it checks for the condition. So let's do, so it would be do, and then we put console log count, and then add to the count, and then we check. Okay. So if we change this count to 5, this condition is false, right? So even with the do while loop, even though the condition it starts off as false, it's still going to log, it's still going to execute this block of code. So as you can see, it's still logged the count even though the condition is false. So if we change this to 0 and run it, it should run like the other loop, the other while loop that we did. So now it runs 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So let's see. The do block executes, logging current count and increment to 1. Then the while loop count. Oh, I changed it up. Never mind. Okay, so let's go back here. And so the last loop that we're going to discuss is the for loop. When you know how many times you want to loop. Alright. So the for loop is designed for situations where the number of iterations is known or easily determined. So what we'll do is we will go to a basic loop. So in a for loop, we initialize the iteration, which usually we use the i's for that. The third thing in our condition is going to be the condition. And then the last thing increments to the next index or the next item that we're looping through. So in this case, we'll just loop through 5 times basically. So for the first thing we do is we initialize the iteration, which is I. We're going to set it to 0. And so then the condition, if I is less than 5, and then we'll do the increment, and then we'll console log I. So this should log 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So clear. Alright, so it logs 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So initialize the counter, which is right here. Checks if the condition for each repetition. So that's the I is less than 5. And then updating the counter after each cycle until it's no longer met. So that's what this console log is. So another example we could do is we can iterate through a string. Let's do that. Okay, so let's set a string. So we'll do message and we'll just do hello. So the idea here is to loop through the word hello and print HELLO one at a time. So the first thing I want to show you before I go into the loop so it'll make sense is there's a method called length. So we can find the length of that string by calling the variable and using .length. So our variable is called message. So we'll do message.length. And we're just going to log the length just so I can show you. So this right here is this. I was just separating each loop. So this was our first basic loop, and then we're iterating over a string. So this console log message.length is 5. So it looks for this variable message, it finds the value of it, and it counts the length of that string, which is 5. So there's 5 letters in hello. So I'll just do that, and we're going to loop through hello. So we'll start with 4. We'll initialize our iterator, and we'll start it at 0. And then if the iteration is less than message dot length, which is 5, and then we'll iterate through that, we'll increment through the next letter is what this means. So remember, in order to print out an index by itself, we have to access that variable message with the brackets, and in this case we'll do I, since it changes over time, and this basically stands for index. So all right, let's see what we got. All right, so we have iteration over a string, and so what it does, starts is at 0, it checks is I, so the first iteration of hello is going to be H. So is H less than the length? So H's index is 0. So is 0 less than 5? Yes. So print out the index, or the current index in the console. So in this case it would print out H. So then we go back, and then we go to E. So we're at E. So we're at index 1. So is 1 less than 5? Yes. So print the current index, which is E. So print E. So it prints E. So it goes to L. So L's index is going to be 2. So is 2 less than 5? It is. So I want you to print the current index of message, which is the first L. So then it goes to the next L. That's going to be 3. So is 3 less than 5? Yes. So log that current index, which is log that current instance in that string, which is L. So it logs L. So then it goes to 0, or O. So O's going to be 4 is going to be its index. So is 4 less than 5? It is. So it prints out that. So then once we met that length, once it gets to 5, it stops, because there isn't another instant or index in there. All right, so that is the for loop. The while loop check first, then runs. So he has a condition. So if the condition is true, execute statement, increment or decrement, and then it goes back to the condition until it's true. It just keeps looping and looping until it gets to false, and then it'll end. So pre-test loop, this means the loop condition is checked before the code is executed. So the do while loop, run first, then check. So in this, we'll check. We do the command, and then we check, and then we go back to the command, and then if the condition is false, it'll end. So in here, the condition goes first. If it's true, we run the command, and then we go back, and we loop around until it leaves false. Alright, I think that is it. I will do some demos on the examples that we have here, or actually I will probably do, my next demo will be on this task management system, which is, we're going to also use a while loop for this as well. So I will demo that shortly.